Forget the jump scares, the slasher flicks, and the haunted house gore. Those are fine, but if you want a genuine, creeping chill this October, one that gets under your skin and stays there, you need to be reading Montague Rhodes James, or M.R. James. James was the quintessential Edwardian scholar, the provost of Eton College, and a serious academic. Not a typical horror writer, which is precisely why his ghost stories are perfect. They are the literary equivalent of a cold wind suddenly rushing through a quiet, dusty library. Today, I'm going to tell you why James is the ideal author to carry you through this spooky season. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis, with me Mark, and I'm going to be talking about the wonderful Montague Rhodes James, or M.R. James. This is one collection of his ghost stories. He was a very renowned and rather prolific writer of ghost stories. Now, for us, ghost stories we associate with October, Halloween, the spooky season, that kind of thing. But of course, in James's time, these stories would have been told on Christmas time, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. People would have sat round listening to ghost stories. Anyway, why does James work so well for us today? Why should you read him? Well, the biggest reason I think James works is that he's got this mastery of reticence. He showed less, which forced the reader to fear more, if that makes sense to you. In modern horror, I think everything is blatant. You know, we see the monster, we see the gore, but James kind of understood that nothing is scarier than your own imagination. In his horror stories, there's not generally a sudden monster reveal. They're unsettling. There's this unsettling feeling. Something malevolent is kind of breathing down the back of your neck. Think of A Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad. It's one of his stories. I think that illustrates that very well. You know, what does the ghost in that story look like? It's just a face of crumpled linen. It's very vague, terrifyingly vague, if you like. Or there's the slow, agonizing dread from one of my personal favorites, and one that really sent a chill down my spine, the mezzotint, where this figure slowly moves across a framed picture every time the owner looks away. So the horror isn't a jump scare, it's that cold sensation of the unseen, or this creeping malevolence coming for you. That's what makes it, to my mind, terrifying and chilling. The next point is also the why it fits in well, I think, with this kind of spooky October and things, is that he writes this antiquarian horror. It's almost like a dark academia for today's kind of kids, you know, the hip people who like this dark academia. But he writes, I think, what we can call antiquarian horror. His ghosts are invariably tied to objects and places in the past, and his protagonists are usually fussy, mildly arrogant, single-minded academics, historians, and various collectors of artifacts who kind of stumble across some kind of cursed item or artifact, or an ancient document, or some kind of forgotten seal. The theme is clear in these books. It's the idea, or in these stories rather, the idea of curiosity kills. You know, these men, and generally they are men, poke their noses into things that would be best left alone. And of course, the past strikes back. It retaliates against this nosiness. And I think this is really a wonderful structure, you know, a wonderful structure to build these kind of stories around. You know, it gives us this kind of feeling of historical chill. You know, when we seek out old folklore or spooky traditions, we're doing the same kind of research as a Jamesian scholar. You know, if we look at his greatest hit, arguably his greatest hit, Casting the Runes, the curse is passed just via a scrap of paper. You know, it's the ultimate weapon against a man whose life revolves around paper and knowledge. And the horror then becomes so intimate, so intellectual, that it makes you check your own library for anything that you might have inadvertently wakened. Scary stuff, eh? You might look at some of your old books in a different light, eh? Behind the scares, the atmosphere of these stories lend themselves so well to these autumnal nights, especially as the nights kind of draw in and, get darker. Here where I'm talking to you now, it's grey. It's only 2:00 in the afternoon, but it's grey, it's dull, it's misty. We don't need fog machines when you've got them outside, and you certainly don't need them when you're reading a James story. He gives you a genuine atmosphere. His stories are extremely atmospheric, from windswept beaches to drafty old inns, gloomy cathedral libraries, like in the stalls of Barchester Cathedral, for example, and isolated English estates shrouded in mist. And I think the wonderful thing about his stories too is that they were especially made to be read aloud or recited by candlelight to his academic friends and students on Christmas Eve. He's traditionally associated, of course, with Christmas, and I don't know if it was the BBC or ITV put out a series of one episode dramas based around his short stories a few years ago over Christmas time. But as I say, for most of us now, we don't really associate Christmas with that. I suppose we do have one of the ultimate ghost stories in Dickens's Christmas Carol obviously takes place at Christmas, but we tend to now focus on October. And I think, we have that luxury now where we can feel that we can read him not just at Christmas, but we can read him basically, I would say, from any time from October onwards. There'll definitely be a different feeling reading M.R. James in August as there would be from October through to December. I mean, this is, as we said, the spooky season. I mean, he's perfectly adaptable to our modern sensibility of spookiness in October. So I would say this October beyond, light yourself a candle, probably not too close to your library. That wouldn't be a good idea, but grab your favorite blanket, your best furry friend, a nice hot drink, and let the quiet and the scholarly dread kind of wash over you as you immerse yourself into an M.R. James tale. Let it all kind of envelop you. Let the atmosphere envelop you and allow yourself to be drawn in. Almost, for want of a better phrase, something like an analog horror experience in our digital age, if that makes any sense at all. But, let yourself be drawn into it. So if you're new to James, where do you start? Well, I've already mentioned, Casting the Runes, Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad, and the Mezzotint. These, I think, are very good starting points. Just grab yourself a collection like this one, or the Penguin Classics have a 2-volume collection, which I also have. You can get the complete works of M.R. James for like 99 cents from Delphi Classics. You can get collections easily, like I think is it Tales of an Antiquary, for example. You can get easily for free off Project Gutenberg as well. So, don't necessarily throw yourself in and try to read the whole collection at once. Start with, his greatest hits maybe, just so that it can kind of suck you in, pull you in. Possibly start with Casting the Runes, move on to A Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad, and then maybe something like Lost Hearts. Lost Hearts is rather unusually dark, actually, even for James. It features a very sinister occultist and 2 children whose hearts have been, removed. That's not spoiling anything, I think, but it's a truly chilling surprise at the end of the story. And if you read just one of these this October, I think you will look at your bookshelf differently and look at, the idea of ghost stories probably differently as well. So James gives us a unique, intellectual and deeply atmospheric horror fix, or, dip into the horror genre that is a perfect match for this season as the dark draws in. it's a thinking person's ghost story, and I think he really deserves a spot on your TBR. And the stories are not long. You could read one in, half an hour or something, probably, very easily. And I don't think you would regret it, especially if you start off with those one of those three recommendations. If, however, you're an old Jamesian hand, let me know in the comments which story you've enjoyed the most. If you're not, let me know which story you'll be tempted to try first. And if you have read it, let me know what you thought. So I hope you enjoyed this little video on why you should read M.R. James and give him a go during this season. And if you feel like liking the video and subscribing, I'll be very grateful to you. So have a wonderful spooky season, and hope to see you all soon. Do take care of yourselves. Cheerio. Bye bye. Ooh.